Invite some friends. Let your friends know that Auntie Nella is on here to chat tonight. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about quarantine relationships, some wins, some losses, some gains, some not so many gains. But we want to tap spin on stuff. And so I I think it's important that we take some time to discuss some of these things because it looks like COVID is going to be around for a little bit. So we don't know when we're going to be back into quarantine again. So I want to make sure we discuss some stuff. Hey, so I'm going to wait on a few more other people. Hey, Darnell, few more other people to jump on. And once you guys jump on, we'll get the chat in here and discussing some things. But this podcast is an open podcast. You can ask questions. You can throw comments if you have a question for me. I'm always honest and willing to answer those questions. So my motto is this: you ask me a question. Hey, cousin, you ask me a question. I don't care how whatever question you ask me, I'm gonna be honest and I'm gonna give you the truth. So ask me that question, I'm gonna give you an answer. I mean, I like my answer, but I'm gonna give it to you. So we're gonna wait for a few more people to come on, share this video, let people know that I'm on. Hey y'all, how y'all doing down south? We still waiting on a few more people to jump on here. But while we're waiting on a few people to jump in, I just want to share some stuff with you guys. I know that quarantine's been a difficult time, and it's been a difficult time on a lot of relationships, whether it's a married couple, whether it's not a single couple, whether it's a married couple or whether it's a boyfriend and girlfriend couple. And it's been a trying time. Some of the things that I've gotten from people or heard from people, most of the main things that people are struggling with is which caused a lot of breakdown. It has to do with money, sex. Don't ask me why sex. I don't know why that's the issue, but anywho, and kids. And I think a lot of that has to do with just the close quarters, with everybody being in the same place. I'm gonna connect my guest on here. Hold on just a second, see if I can get her on. Hey, Sister Arnett, I was trying to get you on here, but if there's a button where you could add yourself for me to link you into the video, go ahead and add yourself because I could see. Let me just a second here. Yeah, go ahead and see if you can add yourself on. Um, but I've heard that sex is one of them, kids is the other, and money is the other. So go ahead and request it. Sister, now read the bottom. Read the comments. It says you have to request to be on. So you have to request, and then I'll just accept you on. We're waiting for. I'm gonna give it about another minute or so and wait for some people to jump on because I know people are probably trying to get themselves situated. But when I first heard that the top three things was money, kids, and sex. Sex was kind of shocking to me in a sense, but after I had a little time to think about it, I guess after being in quarantine for a little bit and you're in a house together all the time, nobody wants to be a robot, I guess, and so that's why sex was one of the main things too that was combined in there. Um, okay, let me see. Okay, I'm waiting for her to see if she can request to jump on. But I think so. Money, I think the issue might be just because of the stress of everything that's going on with quarantine. I think that's where the money part comes in for me. And you guys can let me know. Hey, Maya, you guys can let me know what you guys think. But for me, I think the money comes into play simply because most people in close proximity were all together. So now you're constantly spending money, seeing money going out the door, and we're at a standstill. And so that adds a lot of stress to it. Kids, I think, is basically trying to teach, trying to be a teacher at home now. That's new to everybody because it's new to me. Come on, it's new to me. And so I said last week, and I'm gonna say it again this week. When I tell you, I was going cuckoo eye trying to do quarantine, trying to be the teacher, trying to help these kids. And the math they do now ain't the math we did in 1987. Ain't the same. It ain't the same math. And so that part was a struggle. So that adds stress to your relationship. That adds stress to, your day-to-day, tasks. Money is always, I think, a struggle in a marriage or a relationship, but having other things added to the plate will add more stress to it. And that's where breakdown will happen. And so we're going to dive in here. We're going to dive. Hey, Sandy, how are you? We're going to dive in here just a little bit so we can discuss some things um, about. I want to discuss about kids. So I know that through all of this, kids are struggling. Kids are struggling, parents are struggling. But I also think it's important. It's important to know that even though the kids are struggling, the mom is struggling, the dad is struggling, you still have to take quality time to build your relationship. The other thing I'm going to say too is during quarantine, you're going to have some wins and you're going to have some losses. And throughout those wins and those losses is that's where you take the opportunity to be able to navigate and navigate through the process to say, you know what? I have a checkpoint. I want to figure out what. Let me accept her just a second, guys. Give me just a second. She's coming on. So yes, I just clicked it. I did just click it. So I think, hey, how are you? You finally figured out where the button was. I know. I know Toe do it, but I can't see it because Toe do it from hers when she click it. But I have a guest on tonight, and it's I call her Sister Netta, but I'm gonna say Annetta Phillips. But what we're talking about is quarantine relationships, and I wanted to bring you on because I want to have a discussion about relationships during quarantine. I know what I can say the struggle that I had during quarantine for relationships, and I think my biggest struggle simply, you guys, was just the fact that I now have kids in my house that I have to teach. I now have to still cook. I now have to still clean. I now have to still do a ton of stuff. And so, let me just say, oh, it didn't come on. So now I have a ton of stuff adding on to the relationship. And sometimes what happens is we tend to lose ourselves in our marriage or our relationships um, within the process. And so Sister Netta, I want you to tell me during quarantine, what was the biggest struggle relationship wise for you? Yep, I can hear you well. Yes. Yep, absolutely. Hey, correct. 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 Release. I need to release. Correct. Correct. Absolutely. And so navigating through that, share with us a little bit how you was able to navigate through it. Because it's easier said than done. It's easy to say, you know what, I had to fight flesh. But share with us some of the things that you may have done to help you get through that process. Absolutely. I'm pulling you in on Friday. Don't worry, I got you on my list for Friday. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yep. Correct. 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 Yep. Correct. 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 Hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, nephew. Absolutely. Correct. So what I'm hearing, so just a sec. So what I'm hearing from you is you allowed yourself to create check marks. You put check marks out there for yourself and say, you know what? And sometimes that's important because sometimes if we go with just flesh, then you're going into it blindly. And when you go into it blindly, hurt's going to happen because you're going into it blindly. But when you put checkpoints in and create a reality for yourself, it makes it much, much easier for you to understand and for you to be able to accept. Because I tell people this all the time. You can have a night of pleasure and be happy as hell at night. But that next morning you wake up, you're going to have a lot of regret, especially if it's something that you're not moving upward in. So if you're not planning to move upward in that process and you're creating a boundary where, you know what, I just need to fulfill this need now and then I'm going to be okay. But the next day when you wake up, that's where that mental starts to play with you. Because this is the other thing I tell people too. Women, I don't care who you are. You'll hear a lot of women say, you know what? I could play the game just like a man, I could do the same thing they do. No, you can't. We're not cut out the same way. We're not cut out the same way. And the reason why we're not cut out the same way is because emotionally we get connected. And we can't cut off our emotions as quick as a man can. And so it's important to make sure you put those check marks. And so I'm glad to hear you say that because if you don't put the check marks out there, or if you don't put the check marks in your head and say, you know what, this is not the direction I really want to go, I'm going to sit and find something else to do. Because if it's meant to be, it'll happen and we'll move upward. I don't want to move up a hill and then have to slide all the way back down that hill. One of the other things too, I was someone sent me this into my inbox, and the question was, and the thing they were saying is, I have with all this time together, meaning during quarantine, with all this time together, should this feed the relationship, make it better, or has it made it worse? And so I'm going to answer that question for me, and I want some other people who are coupled up or married too to chime in here. One of the things for me is, I think for me is it made my marriage better, but it didn't make me better. And what I want to say about that is, and I have to clarify, is because I was so focusing on pleasing the kids, cleaning the house, pleasing the husband, I lost me. I lost the opportunity to create some self care for me. And so that's one of the things I found in quarantine that was a loss for me. And I had to revamp myself and say, you know what, I'm just as important as they are. And so that's one of the losses that I lost. The wins is I just felt like I created more closeness, a more close knit family. Gathering when it came to my household, we had time to, eat together. When before quarantine happened, you have such a busy life. And so you're doing 50 million things at once. You don't have time to breathe. You don't have time to breathe. You don't have time to, think about what's happening around you. Quarantine forced us. And for me, I felt like that's a way of God telling us, be still. Be still. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Scott. Yep. Correct. Yep. Hmm. Yep. Yep. Correct. Hmm. Hmm. It really has. Yep. Absolutely. Correct. 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 Yep. It does. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Correct. Hmm. Yep. 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 Yeah, absolutely. We feel the need to feel like that's important. And one of the things I did was I felt like, you know what, I'm doing this, but I'm doing this in a sense of as long as they good, I'm good. But that's never healthy. That's never healthy. It's always important, no matter what happens, in order for you to be a good wife, a good mother, a good sister, a good aunt, whatever you are, you have to make sure you create self care for yourself. That's important. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of lost themselves in this shuffle too. Because I feel like it's idle time, it's you're sitting still, you're doing so many things, but you didn't take the time to listen to you. And you have to take the time and listen and cater to you. Even if it's just, even if it's just, okay, I'm gonna go and read a book. Tonight I'm gonna take this opportunity to read a book. I'm gonna journal. I'm gonna, maybe get on the phone with one of my girlfriends and just chat with her because I haven't talked to her. She's just as busy as I am. So that stuff is just as important as anything else. I feel like if I'm not the best me, I can't be the best wife. I can't be the best mom. I can't be the best sister. I can't be the best all those things. We wear so many different crowns, and it's important for us to make sure with those crowns we're wearing them, we're making sure that we're keeping our jewels shining. And so, in order to do that, we need to make sure we complete a complete circle to make sure that circle goes around and is completed. So that's one of the things that I think that was really a struggle for me is to accept the fact that you know what, it's time for you to create some self care for you. And so that was the biggest struggle for me. The other thing is it's great, and it brings me into this next one I have. It's great to have togetherness, but you also need to make time for self care. It's good to have that togetherness, but if you don't have self care, then how can you include yourself in the process when you don't have it? And so it's important to make sure you look out for you, and then everything else will fall into place. So I'm trying to see. So this was another question I have. I'm trying. I'm trying. I tried seeing my spouse or partner. I'm tired of seeing my spouse or partner all the time. I'm sick of them. We're in the same house together. I'm tired of seeing them. What's the avenue? Do a quarantine. Maybe you can go by your girlfriend's house and do a quarantine run by her. You know, call somebody, look at a movie by yourself in a room by yourself. Create some space because you have to have space for yourself. If you don't have space for yourself, you're not healthy. You do. You're not healthy for anybody. And so that's one of the things that I think we just need to make sure we make a mental check. I try to do once a week. I try to make sure I spend some time thinking of some things that I could have created this week for better self care for me. So I try to create some of those things. I'm a person that loves to write. And so I have to have paper. I need paper. So I'll jot stuff down. And so always go back and revisit some of those things because going back to revisit some of those things or important. It's always important to do that because it's going to allow you to see what can I do to make me a better me. All right. So, what challenges have you experienced during quarantine? Give me some issues that you might have, not just issues. I don't even say issues because everybody didn't experience bad things during quarantine. There were some good things, some wins during quarantine. So, share with me some things that you feel like you gained during quarantine. Yeah. Nope. Correct. Yep. Hmm. Yep. Hmm. Too much going on. Yep. Hmm. Yep. 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 Absolutely. Hmm. Hmm. Hey, Tamika. Hmm. Yep. Correct. Correct. Yep. 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 Hmm. Yep. 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 Absolutely. Yes. Yep. Hmm. Correct. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Yep. Correct. Correct. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I I I agree with you. Yep. Yep. I agree. I agree. One of the things I did is I started meditating in the morning. And so 2020 quarantine or quarantine period. In 2020, that allowed me to reconnect and take some time to do a check and balance between me and God. Because when you take time, the first thing I do in the morning when I get up, if you take time to sit there and have a conversation, and thank God, because let me tell you something, I could have been one of them people that's in the grave. You know what I mean? And so we have to take the time to say, you know what, during this time, I got my family, but I also need to build a relationship with God. I need to make sure I have that relationship built. God does things, things in life happen for a reason. And I'm going to say this, things in life happen for a reason. And when they happen for a reason, either you're going to take that bull by the horn and run with it, or you're going to sit back and mope all day. And if you decide in life to sit back and mope, you're going to have a miserable life. 2020 should have brought a change in all of us. If it didn't change one thing in your life in 2020, something's wrong. Because 2020 was different. And even going into 2021, 2021 is even different. And so that's the thing I think that we have to sit back and think to ourselves, what is it that I learned in 2020 that I can bring over in 2021 and still be great? And so it's important to make sure, I don't care how you crumble the cookie, I don't care how you throw it under the table, God's going to always be the center of it all. I see I have a comment on here, and Tron says self care is necessary. I started walking the first time in the morning. I started walking the first time. He started walking for the first time in the morning. We need some of that. You know, you need to find avenues to be able to release some of just being inside all the time. Because when you're inside all the time, you don't have the opportunity. Just get out and get some fresh air. It's a little difficult for us because we're in Minnesota. He's in Louisiana. We're in Minnesota, and you could get out and walk, but it's just kind of difficult now because we have snow and ice and all that other stuff on the ground. But I say find other things. One of the things I would do too is upstairs in my upstairs I have like a hallway, so I would just do walking backwards and forward in that hallway just to kind of release. some of the tension of being inside all the time. So you want to find things like that to make sure you can do. What are some weakness and strengths in a relationship? I think for me, my weakness is, even though I don't want to admit it, I'm gonna admit it. I'm a control freak in a sense of how I want stuff done. So like my husband or my daughter will say, "Well, I can help you," and then I'll be like, "Okay, okay, okay." But then before you know it, I'm doing it because in my mind, I know it's an order it needs to go in, and so if it's not in that order, I'm cringing. And so I had to learn to let go a little bit because I was becoming a fussy, just fussing about just stuff that was unnecessary. And so that's one of the things that I think was my weakness. My strength is being able to get us to communicate, being able to get us, together and do, different fun things. Um, my thing is during quarantine, I learned how to try different types of foods, cooking different stuff. Um, I love Chipotle. And so I went online and I got a copycat recipe for Chipotle. So I did that. So it's things like that that I think if quarantine wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have ever done any of that. So, what may be some of so if you have a person in your position right now, what are some things you would tell them? Because sometimes those walls can close in on you. And if you're not mentally strong, spiritually strong, you may collapse. And so share with us some of the things that you think may be able to help somebody that may be truly struggling and not in a position to, get themselves out of the funk. So during quarantine, because it's just you when you have those walls, sometimes what will happen is walls will close in on you. And so because you're spiritually strong, there may not be a person out there that's spiritually strong and don't know how to deal with or navigate being quarantined and being home alone. And so speak on that to help somebody that might be out there struggling currently today. Mhm. Yeah, it is. Yep. Correct. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. Yep. Correct. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree. Yes. That's right. Yes. Correct. Mm-hmm. Correct. 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 Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I agree. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. 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 Correct. Correct. It's a lot. Yep. 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 You have to. You have to. You really do. You really do. You really. You're right. Yes. Mhm. Oh, yes. 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 Trying to get up there. You. You really would. Yep. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Mhm. Mhm. We really do. Yeah. I agree. Mhm. Yeah. And making this worse. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. Let's stop right there because I want to pause on that because that's important. And the reason why I want to pause on it because when I decided to come back to do my ex Auntie Nella, um, one of the things I said right up front, I said my first topic is going to be all around quarantine. And so my first one was health issues, quarantine with health issues. This is quarantine with relationships. But I need to say this, and it's important. Quarantine can spin people in a direction that they don't think that they can get themselves out. If anybody is out there listening and they're struggling, listen, pick up the phone, call somebody, shoot me. You could send me a message in my inbox. I'm always willing to chat. You know, one of the things my daughter and I use this all the time because my daughter says to me a lot. She says, "Mom, every time we go somewhere, people always gravitate to you, or people always talking to you, or you always seem to attract the weirdest people." For me, I don't see it that way. I don't see it that I attract with. I see it in a sense of people can tell if you're inviting, and if you're inviting, they're gonna approach you. And so if they say hi to me, I'm instantly gonna say hi back to them, and before you know, it's a conversation. And so my daughter like, all you do is talk, 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 talk. So I'm gonna say is you never know saying hello to somebody, how you doing, may change the world. That one person could have made that decision that day. I'm done. I'm jumping a cliff. But saying to them one time, hello, how you doing? How's your day? You don't know because sometimes when people ignore people, they just think they're in a bubble and that makes them fester even more and more. A lot of times you have so much stuff going on in your mind. And listen, we got so much stuff going on day to day that sometimes you can't think twice what's happening in your life. But what I will tell you is this: as those things are racing and you feel like at some point I have no way out. There's no way out. It's too heavy for me. If you trust in one thing and you trust in God and say, God, please clear my mind, allow my mind to be free. Trust me, I promise you, you will sit back and you will be like, I don't even realize that, I could have done this months ago. I could have done this a year ago. I could have done this a while ago. So it's important for you to make sure when you're thinking that something's not right, know that something's not right and act on it. Reach out. A lot of times in our community, we feel like because we were taught, and I know I was, I'm not gonna say everybody, but I'm gonna say me. I was taught that, you know what, you should be strong. You could get over it. You'll be okay. You have to reach out to somebody that has a PH behind their name, and you can sit and have a conversation with them, and they can give you some things to do. I that was one of the things that my doctor gave me. She was like, take some time to journal. She said in the summertime, go out, in the yard and write. Don't just stay inside all the time. Find different places. She said when you journal, go different places and journal in your house. That makes you feel like you're moving around. So it's important mentally that while we're doing self care, we need to also do a mental check. Check on your sisters, check on your brothers, check on your dad, check on your mom. Because let me tell y'all something. Things that are going on in this world today, we're not okay, people. We're not okay. There's too much heavy stuff. I'm sick and tired of turning on the TV and seeing everything going left. You hear nothing positive. I want us to get back to those days where I could click on the TV, see regular news, and things are fine. Now you're clicking on the TV, you don't know which way is up or down. And so it's important. The other thing I'm going to say is don't think your kids are fine during this process. Check in with your kids. Check in with your kids. These kids have been bounced around, flipped upside down. They got a new way of learning. They got a new way of living. They got a new way of everything. So even though we may think it's heavy on us, just put yourself in a kid's place or space and think about it. It's even rougher, tougher for them. So, mhm. Yay! Congrats. Mm-hmm. Thank you, young. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. Most kids. That's right. That's right. They are. Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. 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 Yeah, it's hard. Correct. That's right. They are. They really are. They are. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. 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 Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mm-mm. Correct. Ugh. Ugh. Oh wow. Mm. You know what's sad about that though? Here's the sad part about that. You got one kid that could share that. Can you imagine how many other kids out there struggling mentally? There's a lot of kids out there, and you know what? I'm gonna say this, and I said this from day one. When it came down to quarantine, and I had to, help my grandson and my son, get navigate through school. The thing for me is I have to bow down to teachers, and I have to bow down to them simply because, listen, I got two kids at home that I'm trying to help in school. I don't know how they deal with 23 students. How you keep 23 students, engaged. I'm struggling trying to keep two engaged. How do they keep 23 engaged? But I also think that because this was all new to us, all new to everybody, I think the teachers are lost too. But I think what the school system is failing to do is creating a mental check with these teachers along with these kids. Because it's one thing to learn because they're so zoned and focused on curriculum that they're not focused on the well-being. Just like you said, some of those kids was coming to school for a good hot breakfast. Some of the kids was coming to school for a good lunch. Some of the kids was coming to school for camaraderie. Some of the kids was coming to school for a safe place. And so when all that's thrown out the window, what do they have? They have nothing in the end. And so I'm gonna say, take time, y'all, to connect with people. Take time to connect with kids. Take time to know your neighbors. Take time to have a small conversation. It won't hurt you taking a minute out of the day for you to have one conversation with somebody and that person come back to you and say, you know what? That day you stopped and talked to me, I was struggling really bad. I didn't know which direction I was going because it may mean a lot to them. And that's the part that's important. It's not going to, I feel like 2021 is going to be a struggle until we get mid 2021. Maybe summertime, some things may change. But now I think because they got so much stuff going on, it's important to check in with your community, check in with your churches, check in with your kids, check, check in with your spouse, even down to your spouse. At night when pillow talk happens, check in with them and say, you know what? I just want to see how you doing today. Did you have a good day? How's your day? Take the opportunity to check in because it's important. You don't know. We tend to hold so much stuff in and we don't want to share with people because we feel like, oh, then I'm going to seem like I'm weak. I'm going to seem like, I don't want, people to know that's my weakness. No, now is the time to do it. Now is the time to do it. But make sure you check in with a kiddo and you just ask that kiddo, how's your day going? What can I do? How's school going? Talk about, you don't even have to, say how you doing. You could just say, hey, so have you watched the football game? Or hey, what do you like? And then start an engaging conversation that way. But we have to find a way to make sure that we're checking in with our kids because listen, our kids are going to be adults like we are one day. And if we don't fix that process as a kid, they're going to grow up with some of those mental blocks. And so we want to make sure that we're doing that. Relationships are important. Inside of quarantine, outside of quarantine. I will always be the person, if there's 20 people in the room, I'm going to make my way to make sure I connect with at least 5, 6, 7 of those people before I leave. I can never go a place and not be able to connect with somebody. I want to make sure I connect with somebody, even if it's just one person, because that's important to me. And so put that on your agenda. Say, you know what? If I see somebody and I'm walking up the street, or I'm standing at the bus stop, or I'm standing in the hallway, or I'm in a restaurant or something, and somebody's looking at me, say hi. They could be looking at you, wanting you to say something. And so take that opportunity to step outside of who you are and say, I just want to say hi. And you'll be surprised at a smile you'll get from people. You'll be surprised at a conversation you'll get from people. I've had people just walk up to me and said, this lady walked up to me at Sam's Club and she said to me, she said, I just want to tell you, you're so cute. And I said, thank you so much. And she said, but she said, everything that's going on, I hope all is well with you and your family. And for me, that meant the world to me because that's something I would have did to somebody else. So to have somebody do that to me, it it made me feel like, wow, I'm glad, I'm glad. And she wasn't of my color. She was Caucasian, so that made it even better with everything that's going on. And so take the time to talk to somebody, take the time to have a conversation, take the time to ask them how they're doing because you just don't know. So I'm going to ask this to a few people that come here. What are some of the, and you can put it in the comments and I'll read it. What are some of the struggles that you're having or you've had during quarantine? Whether it's mental, whether it's physical, share with us some of the things that we may be able to navigate around here because it's important for us to have conversation. It's important for us to bring these things out. Letting it sit idle, it's not a good thing. Elanisha, it's not a good thing. So share with us in the comments and let us know what you guys think. And Sister Arnetta, so with the 15-year-old, so he has ADHD. On top of him being ADHD, he doesn't have a stable home. And on top of him not having a stable home, he now has to deal with all this new stuff. And so I wonder if he had the opportunity to reach out to a teacher or hopefully reach out to somebody that would be willing to help. Another thing I'm going to say this too, build a relationship with your kids' teacher. Build a relationship with your kids' teachers. It's important to build that relationship because there's some things that you can share with the teacher that sometimes what happens is the teachers are all hustle and bustle in teaching. They sometimes don't get the opportunity to know about your kid. And so have a relationship with your kids' teachers. Don't let your kid get so far behind you can't play catch up, and neither can they. And think about how that's going to make them feel. Think about how that's going to make them feel. So have that relationship with your teacher. Make sure you're communicating. Communication is important. And now, you guys, it's even more important. It's even more important to have that communication, whether it be with your teachers, whether it be with God, whether it be with your spouses. You want to make sure you're communicating so everybody's on the same page. So when a breakdown day comes, they know just how to treat that day. You know what? Today is a day where I'm struggling, honey. I don't know which way to go. I don't know which direction to go. I don't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? You could have that support system already pre-set up. And so take the time to do some of those things. But share me some things that go ahead, Sister Netta, say it again. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Of course. Yep, they do that. Yep. Good. Good. Mhm. 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 Yep. Mhm. Yep. You really don't. You really don't. Yep. Mhm. Yep. Yep. Oh, wow. Overwhelming. Wow. Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't cohesive. Yep. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, what's going on? Yep. Yeah. Mhm. It's wrong. Yeah. Yeah. Or check in, or check in with them, Sister Nella, and say, you know what? I notice your camera's not on. Is everything okay? You know, because teachers can break off into breakout rooms with them. Yeah, it is. It's still the same. Yep. Yep. It's, and I agree with you. It had to come from like higher up because my grandson is that way. Hmm. Yeah, my grandson class is the same way. So if he's, I think 5 minutes. I think if he logs in 5 minutes later, he can't get in. Hmm. Correct. So I agree. So we got about less than. No, it's not. It's not their fault at all. So I agree with you. We got less than maybe 7 minutes here. So I want to wrap it up just a little bit. And I want to say to you, I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation because this conversation is important. And so next week I'm also doing quarantine, and I'm doing quarantine with a single person who's, I mean, completely single, doesn't have, like, not in a relationship, kind of struggles a little bit. And she's like me. She's a people person that needs to be out and communicate with people. And so that's a struggle. So I love that you took the opportunity to give some insight because it's important. And I'm gonna say before I end this live, you guys, if you take nothing else from this live, take that you need to take the opportunity to connect with somebody. Put that on your task for next week. Smile at somebody, wave at somebody, say hi to somebody. Have a conversation with somebody because you don't know if that person truly was waiting on you to come by and say hi to them. Because how many other people passed them right by? So make sure you take that opportunity to just say hi. Step outside of who you are. Step outside of who you are because you never know what that person may need. Take some time. I tend to often sit back and watch my grandson and my son, and I listen to them while they're on their live, while they're on their Zoom, and I listen to them. And I'm listening. I'm listening from a distance because I feel like that's my opportunity to see where he's struggling or where he's gaining. And so then I always connect with his teachers and say, you know what, Cora may be struggling on this. Are you seeing that in him as well? And the reason why I do that because I feel like it's my job to make sure she's doing her job or he's doing his job to know what's going on with my kid. I don't want them to feel like it's okay to just brush them aside and say, you know what, we're teaching this curriculum and here's what you need to know. They're so busy focused on getting the curriculum done that they're missing the opportunity to see that they're leaving a lot of kids behind mentally. Those kids are struggling. They can't keep up. They got to learn how to keep, type on the computer. They have to learn how to have a conversation with the class. They have to learn how to chat in the chat room with the teacher. That's a lot. That's a lot to do. So I'm gonna wrap it up and say, make sure you say hi to somebody. Please make sure you say hi to somebody. Check on your sisters, check on your moms. Make sure that they're doing good mentally. And then I want to discuss Freaky Friday before I leave. So I'm going to do Freaky Friday this Friday. And I'm going to call you this Friday. So I want to charter the waters with Freaky Friday. And I did this before, and it was a hot topic before. But I think it's even more important to discuss it now. So we talked about a threesome, yay or nay. So on Freaky Friday, we're gonna discuss threesome or not. And if you're not ready to hear raw and uncut, don't log on. But if you're curious, log on. I think it's important to have that conversation. So Y'all better join and let some people know that Auntie Nella gonna be on Freaky Friday. Nope. This is no judgment. No judgment because I think it's important that we discuss it again. It was a big topic before and it worked out really well. And so I can't wait. I appreciate you guys jumping on. I will see you guys on Friday, Sister Netta. I will connect with you on Thursday. So remember the topic is gonna be threesome or not. All right. So I'm gonna tag it on my page. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Thank you so